Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. So guys, XRP here on the daily, and we saw a little bit of bullish momentum over the last 24 hours. Let me just throw it up here on the hourly to give you guys a sense of what we saw. So look at that, guys. Over the last several hours, we saw XRP go up to as high as 19.3. Right now trading at about 8.188 cents. But in the greater scheme of things, we still are at the mercy of the resistance levels. We still need to pierce through some significant levels to get some bullish momentum. But guys, I wouldn't worry. We are just following Bitcoin still at the moment. Right now, Bitcoin trading at 69.75 per BTC. But this whole crypto market certainly is recovering. Now, we are seeing the S&P 500 also recover, so it could be mimicking the S&P, but there are a lot of reasons why we could potentially see crypto boom out of this economic uncertainty that we're going through right now as a result of the pandemic. So I wanted to talk about this. Guys, this from Jim Rickards. While agreeing the Fed had authority to expand its balance sheet indefinitely, I also said there's an invisible boundary that would destroy confidence in the dollar if crossed. I didn't think they would go there. They did. Now comes the reaction. And guys, he links this article from Bloomberg News. Now, if you guys are interested in the theory of the dollar and how it can lose value, what that means, governments pumping money into an economy that's already on life support, this is a great article for you. It isn't too long, but it isn't too short either. I'm going to read some of it, and of course, I will link it in the description for you guys. The good thing about this article is that it's fairly easy to follow for those of you guys who might not have a great grasp on economics or anything like that. So it's a fairly easy read. And ultimately, it's talking about how the U.S. government is doing whatever it takes and how, on the one hand, that can be good, but on the other hand, that could have some very, very dire consequences. So doing whatever it takes to save the global economy from the beer flu pandemic is going to cost a lot of money. The U.S. government alone is spending a few $1 trillion, and the Federal Reserve is creating another few $1 trillion to keep the financial system from collapsing. A custom Bloomberg index measuring M2 figures. Okay, and then it goes on talking about some of the figures. These numbers are so large that they no longer have any meaning. They are simply abstractions. It's been some time since people thought about the concept of money and its purpose. The broad idea is that money has value, but the value is not arbitrary. Former Fed Chairman Paul Volcker once said in an interview that it is a government responsibility to maintain the value of the currency they issue. And when they fail to do that, it is something that undermines an essential trust in government. That is the main thesis of this paper, and so they get into some examples here in relation to what we're going through now and the fact that if this is a short-term problem, we can get through this fairly easily. You can print some money, pump it into the economy, and, kind of help bolster up the economy that way. But the fact of the matter is, and this is the big X factor for so many people across the world, is that we do not know how long this is going to be. Is it going to be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half? Nobody really knows how long it's going to take to ultimately reopen the economy, reopen borders for travel. Like, this has so many widespread implications. Not only that, are we going to see flare-ups? Let's say we think that we're all fine and good and in the clear, and then, many medical professionals are talking about flare-ups, and then we will have to close the economy again. So pumping money, printing more of it is a good idea in theory, but it is actually ruining people's perception of money. If there is this idea that money can just be printed, people will essentially respect money less. And then you'll see things like what was happening in Venezuela throughout Venezuela's economic crisis. We saw images of ordinary Venezuelans tossing their useless bolivars in the streets. That is what happens when money has lost all meaning. It is in jeopardy of becoming a commodity when it is supposed to be a scarce resource. Guys, very interesting article. Thanks so much to Jim Rickards for posting that. I read the whole thing, guys, and I will link it in the description if you guys want to read it too. It is really important right now because this is a very critical time in our lives. I'd probably say one of the most important for anybody living today. If you're worried about your finances, if you're worried about the economy, to think about what you're going to do with the cash you have. I'm going to go over some of this, and we're going to talk about some of these concepts here. So, global macro investor pivoting to Bitcoin warns economic fallout could trigger a currency collapse. So this guy here, CEO of global macro investor and Real Vision Group, Raoul Pal, says the world is facing several economic outcomes in the wake of the beer flu, and none of them are good. In a new interview on what Bitcoin did, so he was interviewed on a podcast by a former Goldman Sachs hedge fund manager, and he says that governments are doing the right thing by firing up the printing press and injecting cash into the financial system. But the real problem, he says, is what happens if the widespread economic fallout lasts longer than just a few months. So just what I was talking about in that Jim Rickards article, a lot of lengthy passages from this as well, talking about currency and if it becomes devalue, what should you do with your fiat? Well, you know what Powell says? Okay, here's what he's doing. Here's what he's saying he's going to do. Well, Powell says he is allocating 25% of his liquid net cash to Bitcoin, despite the extreme volatility and risk involved with investing in the emerging asset. So 25% of liquid, if you have $100,000 liquid, you put in 25%, so $25,000 into cryptocurrency. He's deciding Bitcoin, but there are many other cryptocurrencies you can invest in. What I would do personally, put it into something that you know has a future, that you know has been building over the years, with a company behind it that has connections with world governments, financial institutions, and central banks. XRP, for example. The idea, though, is to move away from government-backed fiat and move your money into something that cannot be manipulated. And so this has been the narrative. The US greenback has been manipulated, and not just the US greenback, along with many other currencies, where governments are just printing. And so Raoul Pal says this is exactly why Bitcoin exists. This was the problem that it was built for to start with. In a world where the financial system is struggling, where the ability to make payments, to have a store of value, and to record ownership are basically the three tenets of what Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and the blockchain overall does. And that's a very reassuring thing, to know there is a plan B. Now, maybe that doesn't happen at all, but my fear is for everybody, and this is talking to non-finance people, be really careful in assuming this goes away quickly. So that was a quote from the podcast. Powell said the best case scenario is a return to economic normality in September or October. In the meantime, he's turning to BTC, cash, physical gold, and looking for trading opportunities while trying to earn as much money as he can. Final quote here from him. All I know is there are several outcomes that are very bad. One is everything returns to normal. Another is a slightly U-shaped recovery, and by September, October, we're seeing the back end of this, and that's okay. Let's use that as our base case. That's fine, but we as humans have to plan for the worst case because we need to make sure we can survive it economically. I don't know the outcome. My hunch is it goes longer. A lot of people talking about that this thing is definitely going through the summer, and we're likely going to see it come out the other end in early fall, and maybe that's when we will likely start to see a little bit of normalcy come back to our lives. I read an article, I think it was on television last night. I saw a news piece with them talking about the idea that there won't be any large gatherings of people, or rather that it won't be, they've modeled that it won't be safe to have large gatherings of people until the fall of 2021. So you guys can think what kind of an impact that will have on the economy. Not to say that we all need to be gathering in large groups for everything we do, but the idea that that will be one facet of life that will likely come right at the end of this thing. Businesses will open in the meantime, of course. We will have some semblance of normalcy in the meantime, but those large group settings, that will likely be the last thing that comes back. And so that's a portion of the economy, a large portion of the economy. Hopefully we can get to a more normal life, at least 80-90% back to normal before that. And when asked about Bitcoin, Mark Cuban had a few choice words to say, which I thought was great because he kind of hits the nail on the head. So he was talking, Mark Cuban has been a critic of Bitcoin. And this was perfect because he was on Anthony Pompliano's podcast talking about this and, essentially talking about the economy, right? What's going on, all this stuff. But this is what I found interesting. In order for Cuban to change his mind on the future of Bitcoin, he says BTC will have to become far more user-friendly and understandable than it is today. This is from billionaire Mark Cuban, okay? You guys have probably seen him on Shark Tank. He says, it'd have to be so easy to use, it's a no-brainer. It'd have to be completely friction-free and understandable by everybody first. Then you can say it's an alternative to gold as a store of value. Despite a growing number of merchants and companies that are accepting Bitcoin directly for various goods and services, Cuban argues that BTC remains too reliant on traditional money. He goes, in terms of being a way to transact, whether it's just a transfer of funds or whatever, you've got to be able to spend it. Right now, you have to convert it for anything you want, and as long as you have to convert it, you're still dependent on fiat. There's so many peculiarities to Bitcoin, the halving, the mining, the fact that blockchain is a great opportunity, but in reality, we haven't seen blockchain applications take off. And there's uncertainty with all different types of cryptos and the argument with all the different types of cryptos. These are things that create more and more confusion and diminish the confidence. What he is talking about, what he is describing here, are the follies of Bitcoin that can be remedied using XRP. He talks about the idea that there is too much friction. He also talks about the idea that you need to be somewhat tech savvy in order to do this. It needs to be a no-brainer. It needs to happen in the background. And these are exactly some of the problems XRP will solve. So I don't know if Mark Cuban is invested in Ripple behind the scenes or not. It sounds like he would be one of those guys that would have, obviously, I'm sure he's heard of Ripple. And it is very likely he could have a stake in Ripple. He could have been an early investor or something like that. Nevertheless, I thought this was interesting that he's calling out Bitcoin for its follies and essentially describing XRP as a better version of Bitcoin, which we all know it already is. We got Stuart XRP here on Twitter at XRP_Stuart, SBI Fintech Solutions, Investor Relations 2020. Okay, so this from the Investor Relations Report 2020, RippleNet, formerly XCurrent, in money transfer services between Japan and Thailand. Guys, get this, it increased approximately 94%. So use ratio of RippleNet in money transfer services between Japan and Thailand increased to 94% approximately. In addition to Thailand, money transfer service between Japan and Vietnam utilizing DLT was launched in November 2019. So guys, we are seeing here the chart from Q1 2017 at 0 essentially, and that is wire transfer amounts Japan to Thailand going up to 10.5, an increase of 94% over those 2 years, 2.5 years give or take. Over here it says funds will be deposited within 2 to 5 seconds after transferring JPY from Japan. So Japan, Thailand, a lot of these Asian countries have got it made. And this will be the future of banking, and it's just the regulations that have allowed them to get a head start on this. Depending on where the economy goes from here, I think we are going to see more of this, and governments in the Western world surely will be looking more closely at DLT adoption and cryptocurrency regulatory clarity. T-Hole Benedict XRP, Ripple partner Airwallex snags a $160 million Series D funding for the US Europe expansion. So what do they have to say here? Fintech unicorn Airwallex snags $160 million Series D funding. They are a Hong Kong-based fintech, and they've garnered $160 million in Series D funding for financing as it seeks to expand its footprint in Europe, United States, and other markets. Airwallex is valued at $1.8 billion after the funding round it disclosed. The Series D round attracted participation from a group of new strategic investors, including ANZ Ventures, the corporate venture capital arm of Australia's ANZ Bank, and Salesforce Ventures, the investment unit of American cloud-based software developer Salesforce. So existing investors, Sequoia Capital China, Chinese gaming and social media giant Tencent, and Asia-focused private equity major Hillhouse Capital also participated in the new round. DST Global, an early investor in firms such as Facebook, Twitter, and Spotify, and Horizons Ventures, which manages Hong Kong typhoon Li Ka-shing's venture investment, also joined the financing. So a Ripple partner here, guys. Airwallex snags more funding to expand into the US and Europe, and the expansion is great because this just means more XRP volume once cryptocurrency regulations come to pass. We got Wrath Economy down here saying to aggressively, and he's quoting the article, to aggressively expand its footprint in Europe and the United States and other new markets. So that is great. I love when the verbiage is very powerful. They really want to aggressively move in and take over the business. Well, you know, when you have a superior technology backing you, I'm sure you have a lot more confidence doing something like that. And guys, when you thought there weren't any more partnerships to have, Ripple just partnered with somebody else. So this from Ripple's Twitter Moneymatch app partners with Ripple to offer faster and more affordable payments to more than 120 countries around the world. Moneymatch is a cross-border transfer service that helps small and medium-sized enterprises in Malaysia pay their global suppliers, as the country's traditional financial institutions were charging high FX rates on smaller volume transactions typically requested by SMEs and individuals. Moneymatch partnered with Ripple to offer cheaper and faster payments to more than 100 countries around the world. So the web keeps growing. Ripple obviously trying to get in with as many of these smaller companies as possible, leveraging their superior DLT technology in order to make the world work seamlessly. And there will be a continual need for more efficiency with payments, especially in a post-pandemic world, is my thought. That's my prediction. We will want to see people less, and we will want to touch people less, I think. Or rather, people who are strangers to us, people who we don't know, maybe not our family members. Nevertheless, I think you get my point. A friend of mine who orders from Uber Eats quite frequently was so psyched when they came out with the contactless delivery. He said, this contactless delivery thing's amazing. I don't have to see anybody now. They just drop it off, they F off, and I can just pick up my food and eat it. And I've always thought that with Uber Eats. Why couldn't contactless delivery just be a regular service even without a pandemic going on? And I personally think we're going to see this more and more. Contactless payments, contactless deliveries, contactless. I think we are going to see a wave of contactless business moving into the future, and payments will be one of them, and payments will be a big one. So another potential reason for cryptocurrency adoption to get fast-tracked. This from XRP Crypto Wolf: China's government is set to launch its national blockchain platform on April 25th. So this from the Block Crypto. So China's national blockchain platform, the blockchain-based service network BSN, is set to launch on April 25th. So in a week or two. The initiative, led by the Chinese government agency, the State Information Center, aims to help companies deploy blockchain applications faster and cheaper. High-cost deployment operations and maintenance structure is the main current bottleneck towards blockchain development. Thus, there is an urgent need within the industry to create a public infrastructure network, said the BSN Development Association in its latest white paper attached below. So it goes on about the costs. Guys, I'll link this article in the description. This will encourage a vast number of small, medium, and micro-sized enterprises and individuals such as students to use the BSN to invent and innovate, thereby accelerating the rapid development and widespread use of blockchain technology. So in China, guys, this is happening as well. This almost sounds like that project that Ripple is helping to fund in the United States, with the universities helping to fund blockchain initiatives within universities to get a younger generation interested in programming and learning how to work with blockchains and developing blockchains. So China obviously moving ahead and working diligently, it seems, to be getting a technological advantage. I saw this also from XRP Crypto Wolf on Twitter. Chinese government, also has to do with China as well. Chinese government employees will receive China's central bank digital currency in May, guys, next month. So the Chinese local government employees to receive central bank digital currencies in May. Citing an official document, China Star Market said that Suzhou municipal government employees would receive 50% of their May transportation subsidiaries in DCEP. The digital currency will be issued to them by 4 state-owned banks, including the Agricultural Bank of China, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and the Bank of China, and the China Construction Bank. According to China Star Market, the official document is asking all government institutions and committees to sign the DCEP issuance contracts with these banks in preparation for the May launch. So it's already starting in China, guys. Employees to receive 50% of their May transportation subsidies in a digital currency, China's national digital currency, which is called the DCEP. And of course, they're starting small transportation subsidies at this time, but how long will it be until they roll out for this to be more widespread within China, for it to become 75% and then 95%, and then finally, before you know it, 100% of everything that will be sent to every citizen in China will be in the form of a digital currency. And not just China, guys, that is going to happen, in my opinion, over the world slowly but surely. Guys, this from Matthew Liny on Twitter. Software company CGP offers Earthport and Ripple integration for EMI mobile wallets. And so Earthport obviously using Ripple technology, and these guys want to capture arising opportunities in open banking and instant payments. CGP software offers European electronic money institutions and payment service providers that wish to start their own e-wallet services a comprehensive, ready-to-use electronic payment solution that enables you to launch your own branded product within a month. Our white label solution saves you from having to create your own development team or seeking or outsource several development resources. And this is what I've been saying in the past. The fact that if you can have a RippleNet enabled company white label and do the work for you, that will prevent so many different companies from reaching into their pockets, something that companies probably don't want to do at this point when they're not running a business. But it would prevent them from doing that, and it would allow them to pay someone else to just kind of do the work for them. Kind of like, you guys remember back in the day when you actually had to hire a web developer to create you a website? It would cost a lot more money than it costs today. This is probably 20 years ago now, 15, 20 years ago, give or take. Well, now there are so many services like Wix Online and all kinds of other services where you can just go pay a monthly fee, create your website, drag and drop, post it to your .com, and the rest is history. Makes everything so much easier for so many people in this integrated world. And I think that this is going to be the beginning of where we start to see DLT become really, really widespread, especially if you're having a company white label Ripple Tech through Earthport. So that really great news there. Matthew Lany here saying Worldline RippleNet partner announces collaboration with ManyGa. The partnership will provide customers with next generation fintech tools. So this is a UK-based fintech and digital banking technology provider to increase digital customer engagement through the creation of personalized banking features. According to Worldline, the partnership will provide customers with next generation financial tools by combining personal finance management with conventional banking and data analytics. So another firm providing cutting-edge technological tools for their customers, and we know they're partnered with Worldline, which is a Ripple partner. Going on to this, guys, Wrath of Kahneman on Twitter. Kuwait financial house in today's Kuwaiti Times touted the use of Ripple alongside with Swift for payments. And here's a quote from that paper here. Major steps were considered to adopt fintech and blockchain technologies as fast as possible to take advantage of modern technologies. E-payment methods were activated by making transfers through Ripple technology alongside Swift services using Swift GPI systems. So we heard about the Kuwaiti financial house information back in 2019, and now, as part of a more recent report, guys, he links the report here from April 2020. They are taking that fintech and blockchain technology to the next level. So thanks so much, Wrath of Kahneman, for posting that. And another one here, guys, from Matthew Lany on Twitter. MasterCard Send eliminates the need for correspondent banking relationships. MasterCard R3 partnerships likely using XRP. So here's the overview. MasterCard Send cross-border enables banks in their capacity as originating institutions to send cross-border payments for various payment types, including person-to-person payments, person-to-business, business-to-person disbursements, business-to-business payments, and government-to-business and government-to-person disbursements. MasterCard Send cross-border supports a variety of payout options, including bank accounts, mobile money accounts, customer cards, and retail cash pickup. And guys, how do you think this is realistically going to be done? All these different types of payments, whether it's person to person, person to business, business to person, so on and so forth. Sending money is never easy at the best of times, but when you know there is a partnership between MasterCard and R3, it's likely going to use XRP to settle, considering the complexities that are involved with all these types of payments. So great news there from Matthew Lany. And guys, did you see this? Did you notice that the XPool trademark has now been abandoned? So Mr. B, XRP on Twitter, posts this. It was abandoned as of March 16th, 2020. Looks like they just didn't want to renew it. Also, XVIA trademark abandoned as well, brought up by Stuart XRP. Very, very interesting. My thought here, if you guys are interested in hearing my thought on this, is just that since they rebranded to RippleNet, I don't think that a lot of these X products are necessarily the way Ripple Labs is moving anymore. They want to, as you guys know, about a year ago or so, year and a half ago, Ripple just rebranded everything to get rid of XCurrent, ExRapid, XVIA, all that stuff, put it under one umbrella company, RippleNet. They wiped all sign of the X products from their website to focus on RippleNet specifically. I think part of it was the fact that they were using X in all their product names was too closely linked with XRP, and that they wanted to distance themselves from the cryptocurrency specifically to give people the view that, XRP is a standalone digital asset and we're growing the XRP space, but we are Ripple the company. So I think that that's what that has to do with personally. I saw this too from XRP Arcade, and BitBox Europe now supports XRP with the Euro, the CHF, and the GBP. So BitBox is a digital asset exchange founded in Estonia in 2017 with its service centers based in China. It is one of the top exchanges listed on CoinMarketCap's rankings with $1.1 billion daily volume at the time of this writing. But here, guys, here's a tweet from them just from the other day. BitBox Europe soon supports XRP trading against the Euro, British Pound, and Swiss francs. Buy, sell, or store XRP on BitBox Europe starting next Tuesday. which indeed was yesterday. So thanks so much, XRP Arcade, for posting this. Guys, if you're in Europe, you can now use BitBox and trade against the Euro, British Pound, or Swiss francs if you so choose. So guys, there's a lot of news coming out within the last day with regards to Ripple-enabled companies forging more partnerships, getting the job done despite this pandemic, or maybe because of this pandemic, they want to fast-track things to get things out quicker. And while you and I are sitting at home, perhaps collecting our government checks, waiting to get back to work, somebody here on Twitter had a great thought with regards to cryptocurrency and a plan so that it can moon sooner. And you know who that is? We've got Rob Art here on Twitter with this tweet. He writes here, imagine if everyone dumped their stimulus checks in crypto, we'd moon hard. And as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, it's not just the American government who is giving out money to their citizens, but many governments around the world. And I thought it'd be interesting to see, even just from a small sample, how hard we could moon if this really did happen. So bear with me, guys. I'm just going to run a few quick numbers here for you guys. So we know Congress passes plan to send taxpayers $1,200 checks in beer flu aid. How can you get yours? So here it just says Washington lawmakers push through a $2 trillion stimulus bill in the US. In the UK, the British government is setting aside £65.5 billion for their citizens. And in Canada here, just taking a few Western countries and showing what they're doing. In Canada, they're also setting up $75 billion US in aid relief. Now, we look at the market cap of cryptocurrency and it's roughly at about 200 billion right up here, 199.7 billion. And you know, if you take dumping stimulus checks into crypto, the UK is dumping 65.5 billion sterling pounds, which equates to about 81.77 billion. The US 2 trillion, in Canada 75 billion. Now these numbers get a little messy. I could have looked at all the numbers around the world. I wanted to look at more because there are many different countries obviously offering stimulus packages, but it is very, very unlikely that everybody will dump their entire check into crypto. Of course, people need to pay their bills, so on and so forth. So I just thought, as a small sample, even if we just took the $2 trillion that the United States has set aside for their citizens. Of course, there's so much more money going around the world from government bailouts. But even if you just took the $2 trillion, just to make the math simple, this is going to be a very, very easy math exercise. $2 trillion would mean that this market cap would go up 10 times. Of course, guys, not taking into account the UK, Canada, Germany, Sweden, all those other countries around the world, developing programs to bail out their citizens. Even if the market cap went up 10% with $2 trillion, that would bring Bitcoin to about 17,000, Ethereum to about 1,167, and XRP $1.80 per XRP. And that's just with the American dollars, the $2 trillion. Now, if you think about that and you go back to that idea of 25% of your liquid net worth, and if the world decides to put 25% of their liquid net worth into cryptocurrency, how high could we go? XRP would certainly see single digits, double digits, maybe even triple digits, depending on how much faith people have in alternative forms of currency. And I think time will tell as we move through this uncharted economic landscape. Anyways, guys, that's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.